Hi everyone, we are going to wait a couple minutes before starting so the rest of the participants uh, are joining. Okay, so I think we are ready. We already waited 2 minutes. So first, good morning if you are at the other side of the world in North America, and good afternoon, good evening if you are here in Europe. So, hi, I'm Galo. I'm a consultant at Les Sphinx. And during this presentation, I'm going to be presenting, and my colleagues are going to be in the chat answering some questions and sending a couple links with some useful information. So today is a very important day because we are here to present you something Sphinx has been working for a very long time, and this is the implementation of AI tools inside our solutions. And this is going to be something very important for our customers because it's going to help them boost their research. So I'm going to start with a presentation about the company itself for those who don't know us. So, for those who don't know us, Les Sphinx is a French company, and the company has over 30 years of experience, making it highly established as the software has already been tested and used by professionals across a wide range of sectors. And in addition to France, we are also present in over 50 countries with offices and collaborators in countries such as Spain, Brazil, Tunisia, and Canada. And as a result, now we have more than 50,000 users worldwide. So regarding the companies that trust in us, we mostly cooperate with market research agencies, but we are just not limited to that. We also work with companies that do HR consultancy, and as you can see in here, we also collaborate with some companies that are across different sectors. For example, here you can see telecommunication, fashion, retail, and even some associations. And also we do collaborate with a lot of universities because some professors and students use our tools for their classes and their research projects for example, for marketing, sociology, and psychology. Now I'm going to start talking a bit more about our tools. So first, we have our survey creation tool that IQ3, where here you can create questionnaires ranging from simple forms to advanced surveys with calculated variables, complex filters, and more. And here you will have the option to use different types of questions like closed questions, scale questions, and open-ended questions. And finally, you are going to be able to adapt the responsiveness of the questionnaire depending on the device where it's going to be opened, and also adapt the same survey to multiple languages. Then we have data collection. So first we have the online way. As I mentioned before, in these online ways, we have responsiveness. Then through Sphinx Online, you are going to be able to send email marketing and SMS campaigns. Also, you are going to be able to create a QR code so people can scan it from their phone and have access to the survey. Then with an iframe, you are going to be able to incorporate the survey into a website. And finally, you can send the survey through social media. Then we have the offline data collection. And these first two that we have here, for example, paper surveys and scanner, are part of the same module that is Sphinx Scanner, where you will have the chance to create paper surveys. And after the survey it's already filled, you can scan it with a scanner and it's going to process the answers and it's going to be added to the database. And finally, we have the mobile app, and this is going to work, for example, in the case where you want to conduct a survey in an area where people don't have access to the internet. You go and you ask the questions in person and you register the answers into the mobile app, and it's going to be stored, and later you can incorporate them to the database once you have an internet connection. Then you can import your own data. For example, you can import different types of files. For example, an Excel file, an SPSS file, triple S, CSV, and many others. And also you can import the transcripts from from a focus group or in-depth interview. And finally, you can create your own connections in Sphinx. In this case, for example, you can incorporate your own external panel. You can create your own panel within Sphinx, or also through an API, you can incorporate the information from a CRM or any other information system. So after this, we have our data management module, and here, and this is before performing any type of analysis. So here you are going to be able to clean the data by removing systematic responses, automated answers, duplicates, and others that do not help to your research. And after this, we have the statistical analysis module, where here you can conduct multiple advanced analysis, for example, including cross-tabulation, multiple linear regression, correspondence factorial analysis, k-means, and others. And then we have our textual analysis module. And here you can analyze comments in order to create word clouds, verbatims. You can codify comments based by dictionary, etc. And after doing this analysis, we have our data visualization platform called DataViv. And here you are going to be able to create dashboards, reports, and infographics depending on what you need. So why all of this in one solution? Because we did realize that when users want to conduct a study, they often end up using several different tools and softwares, which makes the process like a bit longer, more complicated, and more prone to errors. So in order to solve this problem, Sphinx integrates everything into a single platform from start to finish. So regarding the applications of our survey, the software can be applied to any type of study where you want to conduct a survey or analyze opinion data. Some of the areas of application first include the experiences. So here we have customer experience. For example, if you want to run a satisfaction survey, then we have patient experience, where surveys are conducted in clinics or hospitals. And finally, we have employee experience, where, for example, here you can do workplace climate surveys, 360-degree evaluations, and psychosocial risk assessments. Then we have market research. Then we have product testing. For example, in the case a company or a brand wants to evaluate a new scent, a new flavor, a new packaging, or other elements. And finally, we have academic research. So now I'm going to go a bit more in depth um, regarding AI and Sphinx. So first I'm going to talk about the origins. So before everything, I want to mention that AI is not something new to Sphinx. It was already included in our textual analysis section, specifically in the comment analysis, by using machine learning, where it was possible to automatically extract whether comments were positive, negative, or neutral. However, what is new is this large language model aspect. So by mentioning this, we had one clear conviction when incorporating AI. And this was not about just like following a trend because everyone nowadays is just incorporating AI. But our conviction was about bringing real value to our customers. From the beginning, we did choose a very rigorous and progressive approach, prioritizing methodological quality, transparency, and reliability. And that's how we built AI tailored specifically for meaningful data analysis and smart questionnaire creation. So in order to choose with which tool we were going to work, we did a casting. And in this case, we did work with OpenAI and Mistral. And for example, after doing this casting, the one that works the best is OpenAI, which is the one that owns ChatGPT. And Mistral is a tool developed by the French government and also follows French regulations. So in order to do all of this project by incorporating AI into our solutions, experts have been involved, as this is not as simple as just integrating AI through an API. There has been tremendous amount of work behind the scenes. We had a team of technical level experts, methodological experts, and legal experts. So first, we have our technical level experts, and here we have our team of developers who work on the formatting, secure transmission of the data. Then we have our product team that help us to understand how to interact with the LLMs and create effective prompts. And finally, we have the LLM engineers from OpenAI who directly supported us with a technical implementation. Then with the methodological experts, it was like very important to ensure that the generated responses were from a methodological standpoint as close as possible to what a research expert would provide. So in order to achieve this, we had the support of our experts from the Sphinx Institute who verified that the generated responses were methodologically aligned with those a research specialist would produce. And finally, we had Jean Moscarola, who is the founder of Sphinx and is also a PhD in economics. And finally, we also had legal experts because we are aware that transparency regarding the use of your personal data is a priority for us. So in order to ensure this, we did work with legal experts to establish a clear framework that guarantees every AI feature is used with explicit consent and with complete transparency. So in the end, you are going to be the one who decides whether to use it or not. And it's not mandatory, nothing is imposed, and nothing is going to be done without your consent. So now moving on to specifically to our innovations, at least for now, we have first, you are going to be able to generate questionnaires automatically. Then you are going to be able to interpret analysis way easily. And finally, you can leverage your textual data quickly. So first, for example, here in the automatic survey creation, you can type your own prompt and IQ3 it's going to give you a proposed questionnaire. If you are like the more specific you are, it's going to be better because it's going to have like more details. Then we have the interpretation of analysis. And here we know that not everyone is an expert on statistics. Some people are just happy with simple tables, word clouds in the reports, and that's completely okay. So we see this every single day with our clients. And because of this, we did work very hard to make advanced analysis as accessible as possible to everyone. So here is a list of the analysis that can be analyzed by AI here in the Sphinx. So we have word and expression clouds, table of characteristics, k-means of cluster classifications, correspondence factorial analysis, principal component analysis, and multiple linear regression. And finally, we had textual data. We have textual data coding. And here the process was the following. At the very beginning, when we did start, we had like manual coding, but that took like a lot of time to do. And then we introduced thematic analysis by dictionary. And finally, nowadays we have AI coding, and I will show you this later on the demo. So in the end, This has been the evolution of coding in Sphinx. And at the end, we have the best of both worlds. We have the finesse of manual coding and the speed of dictionary-based analysis. So now I'm going to show you how it works here in Database. Wait, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so this is IQ3. This is our advanced survey creation tool. And for example, here you can create a new study from scratch. You can copy and paste questions from a Word document. You can already copy an existing survey that you did in IQ3. And now you can generate an AI questionnaire. And for example, in this case, I have a prompt here in this Word document. I'm going to copy this. And I am going to paste it here. Also, it's very important to let you know that, for example, here you have some suggestions. For example, you want to do like customer satisfaction, the software it's already have like a prompt already done for this. Same for brand awareness, work climate, training evaluation, and professional integration. But in this case, I'm going to use my own prompt. So I paste it here, next, and the questionnaire, it's going to be generated. It could take like a bit of time. So for example, here, first I'm going to go through the prompt so we know if it's right or not. So the prompt was create an online questionnaire with a maximum reading time of 8 minutes about the use of artificial intelligence in the field of market research, aimed at respondents in Canada, the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, and New Zealand. The questionnaire should cover 3 key dimensions: current usage and habits related to AI, perceived sentiment towards its application, and expectations or hopes for its future use. At the end of the survey, include profiling variables such as age, gender, socioeconomic level, city, and any additional relevant demographic or behavioral variables you consider appropriate. So by taking this into consideration, let's read some questions to know if this makes sense. So for example, here we have like the first question: how often do you use AI tools or applications in your market research activities? And we here have some of the options that we can choose for answers. For example, we have here daily, weekly, monthly, rarely, or never. Then we have what types of AI tools do you currently use for market research? And we have data analysis, predictive analysis, customer segmentation, sentiment analysis, and others. And you have to specify them. And here we have a scale question. On a scale from 0 to 10, how effective do you find AI tools in improving your market research outcomes? And also, I would like to mention that, for example, here, for example, in this question, you can edit the questions. What AI is giving you is not uh, what you need to do exactly. For example, you can edit the questions, you can add more options for answers, or whatever you want. So this is just so you can have an idea, because at the end of the day, AI is here to help you do your work and not replace you. So after this, I click next. I'm going to put a title to this and finish. It's processing right now. Okay, perfect. So as you can see in here, our questionnaire has already been generated. So this space you see here in the middle is going to be our working space. And here on the left, you are going to have the variables. And here on the right, you are going to have the formatting and the presentation of the survey. So for example, in this case, in this survey, for example, you are going to be able to adapt the size and also like move around, depending where you would like to put the question. And for example, regarding this presentation of this question, you can also like customize it. For example, you can also choose checkboxes or for example, here clickable items. In this case, I will choose checkboxes. And also like, let's go a bit through it to see what we have. For example, here you can also use our own preset templates, depending on what you like. And also here, it's very important to add that you can add extra pages. Here, for example, you can add a new section, a new question table, a new area, insert a new button, a new page. And for example, here, let's say I want to insert a question. So I go here, I go here to image and select another image from my images. Let's say I want to use this one here. I'm going to adapt it and I am going to add this to the mask. So this image is going to appear in every single page. So for example, as I did mention, for example, here we have one question, but also regarding, since this is a questionnaire about the use of AI, we only want the respondents that use AI on kind of regularly. So for example, in this case, the people that answer never and don't really don't really like contribute to the purpose of our survey. So for example, in this case, we can control this. And for example, here we can have, for example, modalities, display conditions. We can create jumps. So for example, here in this question, if the respondent answers never, it doesn't make any sense that this person continues doing the survey. So in this case, what we are going to do is go here to the end of the questionnaire. So this is an example. Then, for example, here you have scale questions and scale questions, open-ended questions, and many others. You are going to be able to move the questions around. You can customize it. You can change the colors in here, for example. You can change the presentation, everything you need. You can insert text, images. Also, you have the option to add here, for example, open-ended questions. But let's go here to the end of the questionnaire. For example, let's say I want to add a new question. For example, in this case, a table. So the question is, how do I create a question? So for example, in this case, I'm going to create a new page. And let's say I want to create a table question. So in order to insert what type of question I want to create, I have the option to go here to questions. Here are some of the options I have in order to build a question. But in this case, I want to do a table. So I go here and I am going to choose a number scale. So for example, let's say I want a question related to the satisfaction related some AI tools. So for example, I'm going to build a question that it's going to be named how, wait a second. So Wait a second. So for example, how satisfied are you with the following AI technologies and its use in market research? So for example, here we have the rows. So some of the labels I'm going to use are going to be predictive analysis, sentiment analysis, consumer behavior analysis, and chatbots for data collection. And here in the modalities of the column, we can choose our own modalities or create our customized one. And for example, here in this case, I'm going to choose this one that is very satisfied, satisfied, never satisfied, because this is a satisfaction question. And I'm going to have this presentation of the question. But also, wait a second. So also what I can do here, for example, is I can create a carousel and I can edit the presentation of the question. So this is like a little bit of what you can do with our tool, because if I go in depth with everything you can do with, if I go in depth with absolutely everything you can do with IQ3, I will be here talking for like 3 or 4 hours or even more. So this is our survey creation tool, just like a part. But also I would like to show you an example of tourism, of a tourism survey we already have as an example. So for example, here, you can see this one, for example, that is already done. This one like already use a template. You can incorporate your own logo, you can incorporate text, you can write down the instructions, everything you need. So for example, here you have clickable items, you have like check boxes, again, clickable items. You can also ask for dates. Here, as I mentioned you, this is a table, but this is having a carousel format. All of this, more scales, questions about you. You can also like use icons or images. And also you have the option to add a question if you would like the respondent to add certain kind of documentation or any type of file. For example, you can ask the respondent to to upload for example, a photo, a PDF, or whatever you need. And that's it. And here we have open-ended questions. And this is an example of everything you can achieve with IQ3. So now moving on, I'm going to go to Sphinx online because we are going to go to the data processing tool. So for example, here you have the distribution and collection. And in this module, you are going to be able to have the link of the survey that you want to share. But also here, for example, you are going to be able to send your email campaigns. And for example, here you can edit the mail with your own words and also incorporate your own database in order to send it. Same for SMS. And here you're going to be able to create a QR code that is going to give you access to the questionnaire. And here in the data management module, you are going to be able, for example, to clean the database from answers that can be systematic, that are very repetitive, or doesn't make any sense, and at the end are just damaging your whole research. So before showing you how to do some types of analysis here in DataViv, I'm gonna show you a few examples of an infographic, a report, and a dashboard. For example, here we do have the example of an infographic. As you can see in here, you can also add maps, make it like very interactive. For example, if you click in one region here, you're going to have the comments of the people that come from that region. Then we have a report. This is probably the most complete one because here you are doing analysis, but also you're incorporating your own text, your own images. You are trying to create a good story. So this is why like storytelling is very important for this part. Here you have linear regression, K-means classification, comment analysis, MPS, and many others. And finally, you have a dashboard that is like a little bit more simple, but it's still very useful if you wanna have like an overview of the most relevant data. For example, here, this and this. So after showing you this, I'm going to proceed with the analysis. So for example, in this case, I would like to start with a univariate analysis. So in this case, we don't really need AI because AI is mostly used for cross tabulations or other types of advanced analysis. And for univariate analysis, basically you can analyze uh, any of the variables you have in your study. For example, in this case, let's say I want to study the gender. So before analyzing, to put you like a little bit more in context, this is a study about tourism in a lake region in Europe. So for example, I want to know the average age, the gender of our visitors. So for example, I'm going to take gender, I'm going to grab it, and I am going to drop it here in our working space. All this space you see in here is our working space. And as in IQ3, you're going to be able to create your own templates, choose your own colors, insert images, text, or everything you need. So for example, here we have a pie chart. However, if we do not like this type of graphic, we can change it. For example, we can choose a bar chart or whatever we need. But in this case, I want to stick to, for example, icons to make it like a bit more interactive. So to, I want to edit this so it can have a better presentation. So for example, here I have like men, women, and I want to change the icons. I want to change the pictograms. So for example, for men here, I'm going to choose male. And for women, I'm going to choose female. And I want to change the colors to colors. So we already have this in here, and we have this in our analysis. But what if we right now want to analyze the type of accommodation where people are staying? So I will just like take this variable and I will drop it here, and we already will have this type of graph. And for example, in here, you are also going to be able to choose a table and delete the chart. But the most important thing is here is that in each one, you can show very different things. For example, I want the table to show the percentages, but I want the chart, in this case, to show the frequency. So here in one is showing the percentage, and in the other one is showing the frequency. So right now I'm going to start going a bit more into what is advanced analysis. First, I'm going to start with cross-tabulation analysis, but I want to mention that the purpose of incorporating AI into our solutions is to make these types of analysis as accessible as possible for everyone. So, okay, regarding the cross-tabulation analysis, in this case, I'm going to cross some variables. So for example, I would like to cross the activities our visitors are doing. So I drag it, I drop it here. And then, for example, I want to compare it with the average age people are doing these activities, because I want to know if there is a correlation between the activities they are doing and their age. So I grab the variable age, and I'm going to drop it here where it says cross. I drop it here, and we are going to have another, and the system is going to analyze this cross tabulation automatically. So for example, here I want to sort by values, and I don't like this presentation, so I can change it, for example, to this one. And we have here our final graph, but I want to know what this is trying to say. So in this case, I'm going to go here to our AI analysis interpretation, and I'm going to click here on result. But before doing this here, you have to fill the subject of your study. So in this case, it's going to be tourism in Europe, and the objectives of your study. In this case, is going to be understand tourist behavior. So I click here on result, and it's going to process. And finally, you are going to have here the result of the AI analysis. So we're going to go a bit through it to see if it makes sense or it doesn't. So this says, the data reflects the average age of tourists who engage in various activities during their stay. So gastronomy was practiced by the oldest group of tourists with an average age of 49.7 years. On the other end of the spectrum, activities such as windsurfing and rafting were enjoyed by younger participants with average ages of around 29.9 and 29.6 respectively. Overall, the trend indicates that more leisurely and culturally immersive activities, such as gastronomy and walking, attract an older demographic, while more physical, demanding, or adventure-based activities tend to attract younger tourists. So in conclusion, the results suggest a correlation between the type of activity and the age of the tourist, with older individuals leaning towards gastronomy and walking, while younger tourists prefer more adventurous pursuits like windsurfing and rafting. This information could be valuable for tourism operators to tailor their offerings to different age demographics. So here is the analysis. Also, if you would like, you can change it, or you can add something that you would like. But in this case, I think it really is aligned with what the graph is saying. So I copy the text to the area, and I'm going to have everything from the analysis here in a text box. So in order, we can see, as it did mention, in fact, that, for example, gastronomy and walking are done by people that are like 49.7 and 45.7 years old, which are like at the one of the ends of the median ages, a bit more at the top. And for example, we can see, in fact, that windsurf and rafting are done mostly by younger tourists in this area. So then, for example, here we're going to do a correspondence factorial analysis. And this analysis is done when we would like to see the correlation between multiple variables. So how do I do this? So in order to do this, I go here to our plus sign, and I am going to go to advanced analysis. So here you can see all the advanced analysis we do have. We do have satisfaction analysis where you can do importance performance, tetra case analysis, NPS. Then we have data analysis where you can do correspondence factorial analysis, principal component analysis, multiple linear regression. Then we have key views where you have table of characteristics, strengths and weaknesses, comparative analysis. And then regarding classifications, we have k-means, k-means. So in this case, everything that you see with this symbol are the analysis that are going to be analyzed by AI. And in this case, I'm going to choose correspondence factorial analysis. And for example, I want to see the correlation between that type of accommodation. So I drag it and I am going to drop it here. And I want to see how it is related with age and socio-professional category. I click here in OK. And as you can see here, it's going to generate a graph automatically. And by doing an overlook on this graph, for example, here we can see that, for example, people that are staying in hotels tend to be like a little bit older, retired, are managers or higher intellectuals. However, in the other hand, people that usually stay with family and friends or go camping are a bit younger, for example, from 24 to 31, are other people without professional activity, are people that are less than 24, are employees. But in this case, let's say I want like a more in-depth analysis. So I do the same in here. I go to the AI interpretation, click here on result, and it's going to give me an analysis, as you can see. So I will go just like through the first paragraph. So the analysis reveals distinct clusters based on age that relate to accommodation type preferences. On the first factorial axis, F1, younger tourists less than 24 and from 24 to 31 show a preference for less traditional accommodation options, such as camping and staying with friends or family. In contrast, older tourists, 48 and over, gravitate towards more traditional options like hotels, indicating a preference for comfort and structured environments. So if this interpretation is okay for you, like you can just like copy to a text area and you're going to incorporate it here. But for example, here is like a bit too small. So for example, you can edit this text. For example, I want to change the font size, for example, to 14. A bit less, let's say 13. Yes, 14, it's okay. You can also change the font. One in this case, I want, for example, Calgary. And that's it. And now this is one of the analysis. And now I'm going to go to k-means. So k-means, in k-means, we are going to create different groups based on our analysis. And for example, these groups can be important, for example, if we want to have like new customer segments and we want to do like a specific marketing campaigns for these segments, these new groups. So how do I do this? I go here to the plus sign again. I go to advanced analysis and I go here to k-means classification. And for example, I want these variables, for example, to be analyzed by, let's say, for example, I want these variables to be analyzed by the following here. On the type of ideal vacation. So for example, if they like the sun, if they like sports, make contacts, club, moon, comfort, nature, if everything is included, take rest, be with family, looking for satisfaction and all of this. So I click here in OK. And here we are already going to have uh, different groups. You can customize the groups. Also, it's important to mention this as in the other previous analysis that we do. For example, here in factorial and cross tabulation, at the bottom, you're going to have or the statistical test. For example, here you have the p-value and the Fisher value. And here you will have the detailed results. For example, if you would like to know the characteristics of variables, the matrix of correlations, the classification of quality, all of this, and you can export this into an Excel file if you want to analyze this information in more depth. So for example, here I already have 6 clusters. But for example, I don't want 6 clusters. I can adapt it. I can have it fixed, the number of clusters. So I want to, instead of having 6 clusters, let's say I want just like 4 new clusters, and I generate these new classes. I generate these new classes. Uh, However, I don't know how to interpret this information. So in this case, what I do is the same. I go here to our AI analysis interpretation. I click here on result. And we are going to have four new groups, and I don't have time to go through every single one of them, so I'm just going to read the first one. First, we have the comfort seekers, and in this class values comfort and relaxation significantly, showing high average in water and sun, calm rest, and overall satisfaction. They appreciate nature and warm destinations, but are less interested in organized activities and sports. This indicates a preference for laid-back vacations where comfort and tranquility are prioritized. So I copy this to a text area, and I am going to insert this in my study. And since the size is like a bit smaller, I'm going to change it to, for example, let's say 12. All of this. We want this to be on size 12 or 13. Here. So now, moving on, we have textual analysis. So for example, everything that I'm going to show you is just like a small part of everything you can do, because like otherwise I would not have like enough time to explain absolutely everything in 1 hour. So first, regarding textual analysis, I want to start with word cloud. For example, so in this case, I'm going to grab my textual variable, which is comment. I'm going to click on it, drag it, and drop it in my working area. And we are going to have automatically our word cloud done. And here, let's say I don't want the table, I just want the chart. I just want to know the keywords. But in this case, for example, I don't know what these words are telling me. So for example, I also do the same in here. I go to AI analysis interpretation, click here on result, and it's going to give an analysis based on all these words. So the same, I'm going to go through the first paragraph to see if it does make sense. So the responses regarding this, they highlight the overwhelming appreciation for the natural beauty and landscapes of the area, particularly the lake and mountains. Many respondents describe the lake as beautiful, magnificent, and clear, emphasizing its inviting atmosphere and the opportunities it provides for activities such as walking, boating, and swimming. The phrase lake and sea appeared frequently, suggesting it is a significant attraction. So I copy this again to a text area, and again, you can edit this text if you would like. I make it bigger. And for example, let's say in here, it actually does make sense because people, in fact, are talking about like a lake that is beautiful, it's magnificent, and all these words. So it is, the tool is doing like a very effective analysis. And finally, we do have our verbatim codification, because here in Sphinx you can codify the comments based on different themes and different sub-themes and many others. And so for example, here what I'm going to do is go to textual and semantical analysis. And here are some of the type of analysis you can do. You can create verbatims, cloud of keywords, expression clouds, thematic classification, concept analysis, orientation of verbatims, keywords by context, expressions by context, concepts by context, and the thematic analysis by dictionary, by themes, and the verbatim codification. So for example, first, I'm gonna do the verbatims. So I'm gonna choose my variable comment. And let's say I want a signature because I want to know like who did say these comments, if it was like a man or a woman, and how old was this person. So I click here in OK. I choose the signatures, click here in OK, and I am going to have the verbatims in here. As you can see, here we do have the comments and the signatures stating the gender and the age. But I want to know the thematic classification of these verbatims. So I go here to textual and semantic analysis, and I am going to go to the verbatim codification option. I click in here, and for example, choose again comment because it's our own textual variable. And for example, here we do have all our comments, and here we have our own categories. We can create our own categories. For example, let's say like lake and themes. We can also create our own themes, for example, swimming or boating and so on. So you validate them. But for example, let's say that you have a lot of comments to analyze, and in this case, you have like 368 records that you need to analyze, and doing one by one and creating categories one by one, it's going to be tedious and it's going to take a lot of time. So in this case, Sphinx is going to give you the option to create a code book. And for example, you can adapt it to how many number of categories you would like to have. In this case, it's going between 3 and 7, but let's say I want to have between 4 and 7 categories for this analysis. So I go here and I create a codebook. It may take a bit of time, but like it's already done. Also in here, this is just like an idea. You can still edit the options that AI is going to give you. You can also add new categories, delete categories, add sub-themes, and many others. And now related to the analysis, for example, I still have to categorize all these records. So what I'm going to do in here is going to go to the option to code all uncoded observations, click in here, and I'm going to start the codification. So after this, all the codification is already done. As you can see, you have the number of observations in each sub-theme. You can still edit them, but I'm going to click here in OK, and I am going to have my codification already done in here. And also, for example, let's say that you want to filter the comments based on this codification. So for example, what I'm going to do in here is go here to scenarios. I'm going to go to the app I'm going to choose the action of filter analysis, and I want this to change based I want like the verbatims to change based on what I choose in here. So I click here on the verbatims, I validate it, and it's already done. For example, let's say that you want the comments related to activities. You click on here on activities and it's going to filter. For example, we have one comment here that says, and this time of the year it's great if you have good weather, there is no summer rush, strolling on the banks while resting on the lawn of the parks next to the lake, it's relaxation. You can drive or cycle to Talori and recharge your batteries far from the crowds of Annecy. So here you have like all the comments that are related to activities, cultural experiences, and so on. So, okay, this has been everything related to the presentation of database. But before finishing this, I would like to invite eight. I would like to invite all of you to try our new AI tools. So if you do not have an account yet, you are able to try it for free. So that has been everything for today. And thank you so much for joining us. And we hope to hear from you like very soon. Have a nice day.